بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to start Hadith 20 on IKHLAS, on sincerity and purifying our action, our intention, ourselves. بالسند المتصل إلى الشيخ الثقة الجليل محمد بن يعقوب الكليني قدس سره. So again, Imam Khomeini, according to his chain of narration, up to Sheikh Kulayni, he has received this hadith and he mentions it from Sheikh Kulayni through a connected chain. There is no gap or interval. It's completely connected from his time up to Sheikh Kulayni. And then Sheikh Kulayni from Ali ibn Ibrahim, from his father Ibrahim ibn Hashim, from Qasim ibn Muhammad and al-Minqari and Sufyan ibn Uyayna and Abi Abdullah alayhi salam, from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. This hadith is about verse 3 of Surah Al-Mulk, chapter Mulk, number ayah 3. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. Of course, the ayah is more than this. الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. If you want to start from the beginning, تَبَارَكَ الَّذِي بِيَدِهِ الْمُلْكُ وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. These are verses 2 and 3. But what is mentioned in the hadith is this part. في قول الله تعالى ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. So this is a hadith that someone is quoting from Imam Sadiq, commenting on this phrase. In order to examine you, to try you, to test you, which of you is better or the best in action. But as I said, it has something before this, which means Allah, may Allah be blessed, the one who has the kingdom in his hand, and he has created خلق الموت والحياة, created the death and life in order to test you. ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. So Allah wants to test us to see which of us is the best or better in action. So now let's see what is the commentary of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. قال ليس يعني أكثركم عملا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't mean those who have more action, those who are more in their action. So it's not a matter of quantity. He didn't say ليبلوكم أيكم أكثر عملا, who does more actions. For example, who does more prayer? Who does more charity? No. Who does prayer or charity or other actions better? ليس يعني أكثركم عملا ولكن أصوبكم عملا. The one who does it better, more appropriate. Sawab with sad means what is right. Thawab with tha means reward, thawab. But sawab means what is right. And musib is the person or the opinion that hits the truth. So, aswabakum amala means the one among you who is more appropriate, more truthful, and more right in his action. So what is then al-isaba? Imam himself explains this further. To be aswab, to do isaba, to meet or hit the reality and the truth, means وَإِنَّمَا الْإِصَابَةِ خَشْيَةُ اللَّهِ وَالنِّيَّةُ الصَّادِقَةِ وَالْخَشْيَةُ. Or according to some versions, النِّيَّةُ الصَّادِقَةُ الْحَسَنَةُ. Isaba, who is better in action, means who does his action in more compliance with the truth, needs explanation. Imam says, إِنَّمَا الْإِصَابَةِ خَشْيَةُ اللَّهِ. Isaba is really this and not anything else. So there is no alternative. There are few things added to it, but you cannot have Isaba without khashiyatullah. Khashiyatullah. Khashya is a kind of fear which is not because something is dangerous. A kind of fear which is developed when you are faced with something great, something magnificent, something that humbles you. Your experience is experience of feeling very humble and being full of awe and respect for what you are faced with. And this is why Quran says, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. Who are the people who are supposed to have the greatest khashya of Allah? Those who have greatest knowledge. And this is their knowledge that gives them more recognition of greatness of Allah and their need for being humble. Like, for example, if you have a very great book, suppose a very great book by Mullah Sadra, like Al-Aswar, who can better appreciate the position of Mullah Sadra in this book? Al-Ulama, those who know the subject, who know different people in this field, different texts in this field, and they find this exceptional. So, a mu'min, especially those who are alim, are expected to have greatest khashya for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when your action comes with khashya, it means that you are on the right track. If I say my prayer, which means that I am standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I am talking to Him, I am aware of His presence, and I have no khashya, it means something is wrong. Something has to be fixed. Otherwise, how can you stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of the whole world, and not feel you are very, very humble and He is very, very great and above any imagination, any measure? You automatically become full of khashya, and this would lead to khushu'. Khushu', which is the quality that Allah connects it actually to salat. Ista'inu bis-sabri was-salah wa innaha lakabiratun illa 'ala al-khashi'in. Khushu' is a result of having khashya. There are two different terms. Khasha'a, khashya. There are two terms. But why someone develops khushu'? Because they have khashya. When they understand the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this would appear in the form of khushu', which is a very deep sense of humility. It's not just on the body, it's body and heart. Khudu' is something that you can see it easily on the body. The humility which is obvious, is visible. Khushu', you cannot just say someone has khushu' if you look at the body. Even if his body looks very humble, he's bending, he's bowing, but this doesn't mean that he has khushu'. Maybe he has khudu', not khushu'. Khushu' needs khashya, needs that sense of awe and respect for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, in order to have the best of actions, we need to have khashyatullah wa niyyatus sadiqah, and we should have true and honest intention. Without having honest intention, our action has no value, because إنما الأعمال بالنيات. Actions are dependent on intention and are measured and evaluated based on intention. Wal khashya, either for emphasis khashya is repeated, or as I said in some versions it is وَالنِّيَّةُ الصَّادِقَةُ الْحَسَنَةُ, honest and beautiful niyyah, good niyyah. So this is what we want. So Allah has created death and life in order to test us and examine us to find out. Of course, He doesn't need to find out, but this is something that has to happen, because this is actually how we become good in action, through the test. It's not that someone is already good and we just test him to understand. No, this type of test is actually to give opportunities to people to become good and to improve themselves. So He created the death and life in order to see who of you are best in action, which means they have more khashya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and more honest intention. So you see, the physics of action is important, but not the main thing. When we go to salat, for example, we stand, we have qiyam, we go to ruku, we bend, we go for sajdah. All of them are important, but this is only the physics. This is the surface of salat. This does not guarantee acceptability of salat. Yes, this is a requirement for validity of salat, but the spirit of salat is khashyatullah wa niyyatus sadiqah. If you have khashya, you have presence of heart, and your niyyah is to only please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what is important is not just to have this to begin with. It's very important to preserve also this condition. You know, sometimes we have good intention at the beginning, but later, unfortunately, we lose that sincerity or that khashya. It's very important. Therefore, you have to make sure that with different methods, you preserve that level of khashya and truthful intention. Sometimes, if you are very, much under pressure, for example, you are too tired, too thirsty, too cold, too hot, or you have eaten too much, you are too much sleepy, too much noise. These can stop khashya in the first place, or you begin with khashya, but quickly it dies. Therefore, we need to plan in the way that when it comes to the time of salat, we have the least of internal and external pressures and distractions. Plus, sincerity. So not only having this khashya, but also not to let bad intentions penetrate into your mind. Sometimes we do something sincerely, but later we try to give it a public recognition. We try to introduce it to other people. So we have to be very careful why we do this. So Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, ثُمَّ قال, the narrator says, then he said, الْإِبْقَاءُ عَلَى الْعَمَلِ حَتَّى يَخْلُصَهُ أشد من العمل. To continue with the action till it becomes pure is more difficult than the action itself. Sometimes it may take years, sometimes it take months, it may take weeks, depending on the action, depending on the person, condition, but it's not something easy. Like you learn how to write beautifully, how to paint something beautifully. You develop a habit, you want to develop some skills. It takes time. وَالْعَمَلُ الْخَالِص الَّذِي لَا تُرِيدُ أَنْ يَحْمَدَكَ عَلَيْهِ أَحَدٌ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Pure or sincere action is the action that you don't want anyone other than Allah to praise you. It's not that you necessarily dislike people's praise. It's not that you want them not to praise. No. Good actions should be praised, and also we maybe somehow benefit when people praise, because then we can get feedback, we can know where to invest more. But what is important is that you don't want, you don't expect, you don't demand that anyone other than Allah praise you. If people know or don't know, praise or don't praise, it's not in the center of your attention. Your center of attention is to make sure that you find out the best action, the wisest action, and you are able to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If people praise, alhamdulillah. If they don't praise, or even they don't come to know because it's not necessary to inform them, no problem. وَالنِّيَّةُ أَفْضَلُ مِنَ الْعَمَلِ. Niyyah is more important, is better, more privileged than action. Because action itself without niyyah, if you include niyyah in action, yes, of course, then niyyah is a great part of action. But if you are comparing niyyah with amal, which means physical action, niyyah is better than physical action. Niyyah is the one that gives life to the action. Niyyah is the one that gives a spiritual status to the action. Niyyah is the one that makes an action something that would be manifested in the hereafter. If someone without any niyyah, without any understanding, for example, someone who is sleeping, says something or does something and has no role in this may not be resurrected. This may not have any spiritual value, any value in the hereafter, because that person was sleeping and had no attention and intention. Niyyah is the one that, when it is there, makes it significant, and it will be certainly taken into account in the hereafter. Man ya'mal mithqala dharratin khayran yarah. Certainly this is about the niyyah along with action, or action which has niyyah. Otherwise, just doing something that you have no niyyah for it would not be seen necessarily. Ala wa inna niyyata hiya al-amal. Not only niyyah afdal min al-amal, be aware that truly niyyah is the amal, is action. Either in the sense that the greatest part of action is niyyah, and if you have niyyah but you are not able to act, still you benefit. But if you have action without niyyah, it's not beneficial. Niyyah without action benefits, but action without niyyah doesn't have any value. So niyyah is the most important part. It's the life, the soul of the action. And also niyyah by itself is an action, because it's an action of heart. So salat as a physical act with niyyah becomes salat. What is different between salat of a human being and a robot? What is different between salat of a mu'min and munafiq? is the niyyah, not necessarily the physics. So niyyah is the most important part, and niyyah is also an action of the heart. Niyyah is the hidden aspect of your physical action, physical ibadah, but by itself is also a spiritual act. Then Imam Sadiq alayhi salam recited this ayah, قُلْ كُلٌّ يَعْمَلُ عَلَى شَاكِلَتِهِ. This very beautiful ayah that our ulama in philosophy, in akhlaq, in usul al-fiqh, in aqaid have discussed in Surah Isra, verse 87. Tell all act based on their shakila, based on their form, a scheme. Our actions don't come just, arbitrarily from us or without any connection, without any reason. They don't just come. There is a basis. If you see a fragrance, this fragrance must come from something. Fragrance cannot come from vacuum. There must be something which has fragrance. Actions also come from something deeper inside us. So, what beliefs you have, what ideas you have, what ideals you have, what qualities you have, all together make a basis, a source, an origin for your actions. Imam said, يَعْنِي عَلَى نِيَّتِهِ. Imam said it means that every person acts based on his or her intention. Of course, it doesn't mean that niyyah is equal to shakila or shakila is equal to niyyah, but certainly niyyah is also related, closely related to shakila, because actually it is the shakila of every person that shapes the niyyah and the action. There is a discussion about test, and I think we already made it clear. And inshallah, in the next session, we will talk about testing and about death, because it says خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةِ. What does it mean that death is created? Is death an existential thing or not? Inshallah, we will talk in the next session. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.